We'll do in Mamer Melukotim in Chelik, the fourth volume, Chelik Daled. This is the seventh Mamer. The Mamer Yud Beis Tamuz Tefshin Hey Tovshin Lamed Cheza Hayom Osa Hashem Nogila V'Nismucha Boy. It says in the star over here that this Mamer has been published in the Kuntras Chaga Geula of Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tamuz in the year Tovshim Mem Tes, and this is in honor of the Chaga Geula Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tamuz, and it was dated then on Tuesday, the 8th of Tamuz, Tovshim Mem Tes, when this was published. We'll learn now in Mamer inside. Yud Beis Tamuz Hey Tovshin Lamed Ches. Ze hayom Osa Hashem Nogila V'Nismucha Boy. That's the Yom in Tehillim that we say in Hallel, that this day Hashem made, and let us be happy and rejoice in this day. Umevi kved kedushas merichom admur bal hageula b'mamorei dibur hamaschil zeh. So my father-in-law, the Rebbe, the Bal Hageula for Yud Beis Tamuz, brings down in his Mamer that has this opening. The Frierdiker Rebbe said this Mamer to celebrate the first year Suda Seidah, thanking Hashem for taking him out of prison. That was the next year of Yud Beis Tamuz. Sha'omrei b'chagigas Yud Beis Tamuz Harishona. That was the first celebration. That's after the redemption. The redemption was on Tov Reish Pei Zayin, and this was Yud Beis Tamuz Tov Reish Pei Ches Besudas HaHaidah, and the was a meal of Thanksgiving in the year Tov Reish Pei Ches. So what is the Rebbe said? The Rebbe gave a Mamer over there that started off with this pasuk, and he quotes there from a medrash. The Isa b'medrash, they find in the medrash, Omar Rab Ovin, says Rab Ovin, Ein onu yodim b'amel lismoyach. We don't really know what should we rejoice. Im b'yoim oy b'hakodesh baruch hu. It's a day of a miracle, a miraculous day. In this case, Yud Beis Tamuz became the miraculous day. We say Ze hayom Osa Hashem Nagilu Nismucha Boy. Should we celebrate the day, Oy b'Hakodesh Baruch Hu, or should we celebrate Nagilu Nismucha Boy? We should celebrate b'Hakodesh Baruch Hu. And the Rebbe is going to ask him what kind of a question: who made the day into a day that was also HaKadosh Baruch Hu? But the Rebbe will explain what is the idea. There's a miracle which is in a level of Yom, and then there is the higher level, as the Rebbe will explain in the Maimon. But the Rebbe Ovin nevertheless says that there is a question, we don't know what should we rejoice. Should we celebrate the day, or should we celebrate HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So Shlomo Pirush. So Shlomo comes and he explains. So this is the Tehillim, but Shlomo explains, and he says, and this is in Shir Hashirim, in Perik Aleph, Pasuk Dalet. Over there he says, Nagilo v'nismecha bach. Over here it says, Nagilo v'nismecha boy. Boy can be interpreted both boy in the Yom and in him, in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But it's not clear who the boy is referring to. But Shlomo comes in and articulates Nagilo v'nismecha bach. So it says clearly, over there in Shir Hashirim, it says, we will rejoice in you. Bach is b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in Hashem. Bach b'yirasecha, will rejoice in your fear. And Bach b'torasecha, three things he says over there. B'yirasecha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the Torah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. and B'cha b'Yeshua Secha, in the salvation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The three things in the B'cha that he brings down over here in the, but the Rebbe brings down in the Medrash is Yeshuoscha Teiroscha Yerosecha, but the Rebbe quotes over here in the Mamer as it's brought down in the Mamer by the Friedrich Rebbe. Rabbi Yitzchok, and the Rabbi Yitzchok adds, and he says, Boch is 22, Beis and Chof. So he says, Boch is Be'esr Mushtayim Oisius Shekosafta Lonu B'Torah. That's the rejoicing is the 22 letters that you wrote us in the Torah, which is Boch is Beis, is Train is 2, and then you have Chof, Chof is 20. So those are the 22 Beis Train. Those are the 22 letters that you have written in the Torah. Torah is written with the 22 letters. Beis is train, the base for the B'cha is 2, and Chof is Esrim. Harei Boch, you have Boch. So that's the Medrash. So what is the question that we don't know to rejoice in Hashem or the day? But what kind of question is that? Who makes up the day is made up by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, of course, it has to be in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Medai Maimer is Medayik Mahu Imrei Einonu Yoidim Bamel Ismeach. What is it that he says we don't know what to rejoice? In B'Yoim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Whether it's in the day of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Mikiv on Shezah Yoim Osa Hashem. Since this day, who makes it? Zeh Yoim Osa Hashem. Hashem made it. I know that means the gam alosi shel hayoim uloi mitzad atzmei. That means that also the advantage. What is the greatness of the day? It's not that the day inherently is great. Elo shezeh hayoim also Hashem. Hashem is the one that makes up this day. That it should be a day of rejoicing is Hashem. So it's seemingly it's understood that the joy needs to be in Hashem. So why is he saying we're not sure with what to rejoice in whether with the day or with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'gam Mahem Gimul Ha'inyonim. What is the three things? Yira, Torah, Yeshua. He says, B'cha b'yirasacha, b'teirasacha, b'cha b'teirasacha, b'cha b'yirasacha. What are these three aspects? We also have to understand Hamayim de Rabbi Yitzchok, the saying of Rabbi Yitzchok, B'cha, that is B'eser Mishtayim Oisius. Why are you saying B'cha means you? Why does he say the 22 letters, the gematria of B'cha, the Chav base? Had B'cha b'pashtus hu, B'cha b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Simply, literally, B'cha means HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'loma mefarish B'cha b'eser mishtayim eisius. So why does he explain B'cha with the 22 letters, the 22 eisius? Base. So what is when we say that there is the day? So there's two things. First of all, the day inherently has an advantage from the past. And then the day gets the advantage because of the miracle that happened presently in that day. To understand what is the advantage of the day. Now, we're saying a day, and we're saying it to such an extent that we might think the celebration is not with Hashem, but with the day. To the extent that there is a thought to rejoice with the day. For the day in which the miracle took place is a great day. It's an elevated day. There is two ideas in what makes the day great. The hayom shaboy nase hanes, the day in which the miracle took place, it's a meritorious day. It's a zakai day in of itself. Even before a miracle took place, it's a special day from the past. That's actually the reason why the nest takes place on that day, is because that day is a special day. For a merit is rolled into a day which is meritorious. And further, the al yidei hanes shehoyaboy. A second thing is that through the nays that took place in the day after the nays takes place, Nasayim Zakavim Segula, it becomes a day of merit and a day of special, an auspicious special day. And it gets, in addition to what the day was before, it's now a greater day. Not only that, it's not just the day, but it makes a difference when in the day it takes place. Does it take place during the daytime, or it takes place during the nighttime? So within the day itself, the specialty, depending on the night is special, the day is special. Not just the day itself, but within the day itself, the main advantage is in the very specific time, Yom or Laila, during the daytime or during the nighttime, in which the miracle took place. Like we find in the Medrash, that when you make for us miracles during the daytime, then we say to you, song in the daytime. So if it's a miracle of the daytime, we say the miracle, we say song of the daytime. As we see, when Hashem gave Sisera in their hands, the pasuk says that the Veda and Barak ben Aminoim, on that day they say it was a daytime miracle. And when you do miracles at nighttime, then this song comes at nighttime. As the pasuk says, Ashir Yilachem Kolil is Kadesh Hachag, which is the pasuk in Yeshaya, that is when the Chag goes into and it becomes Yom Tov, which is at nighttime. That is when the Shir Yilachem or Kileil his Kadesh Hachag. Correct us, it's not Kolil, it's Kileil his Kadesh Hachag, which means that it's connected to the nighttime. And the Rebbe explains now that there's actually, when a miracle takes place at the nighttime, it's not just the nighttime as a date, but it represents a kind of a miracle, which is a miracle of night, which is not an open miracle, which a miracle which takes place in the daytime, but it also means that it's an open miracle, the Shloimar. And we can say that chiluk b'hazman sheboi nasa hanes, that the difference in the time in which the miracle takes place, whether it's yom or laila, day or nighttime, ubehesem ledargas v'oifen hanes, that fits to the level, the step, and the way of the miracle. Im hanes b'oifen shel oir v'gilui, if the miracle comes in a way which it's light and open, which is like the yom daytime, or it comes in a way that it's hidden and obscured, like it's a nighttime miracle. Since it's really a difference in the miracle, it sweetens that the fact that the miracle is in a way that it's daytime, so that it presents Gilui open and revealed. But that brings down in the note over here, the word Megillah here, but the Rebbe means that the nace that takes place, meaning that it's Gilu, because the Rebbe brings down from the Mamer Bagula Zayim that the Yoim who Gilui. I guess the Rebbe is talking about the miracle of Yud Beis Tamuz, that it was in a way of Yoim. It was Gilui. Gimel. And to explain this idea, Hashaychus da Hazman Shaboy Nase Hanes Lahanes, to understand the connection from the time that the miracle took place to the miracle. So with understanding, by introducing that what it's known, the Neis Sumeloshin Haroma. Neis means raised. The Al Yidei Haneis Nasa Haroma V'Aliyah B'Hatava. Through a miracle, there becomes a raising and an elevation in the nature. The Neis elevates and raises the nature. The Zehu Masha Emrim Baruch Sha'osa Li Neis B'Mokim Hazeh. When you come to a certain place in which a miracle took place, you say, blessed is the one who's done a nace in this place. So what's the connection to the place? The Gam HaMokim Shu Gavul V'Teva, that also the place which is limited and nature, Mis'ala B'Habligvul Dahanes Shalamayla Mahateva, it is elevated in the belikvul of the nace, which is higher than nature. So over there, we're talking about Baruch She'oso Lineis B'Mokoim, that the Mokoim gets elevated, the Mokoim which is limited, which is Gavul, becomes in a way of a nace, becomes higher than Teva. Umezem move on. So just like Mokim is elevated, also the Zman is elevated. The nace that comes in a certain date, in a certain time, elevates that time. Umizem move on from this, from the way it elevates space, it's also understood from this, al derech zeh, u'b'negeya le'zman shenase b'hanes, as it relates to the time in which the miracle took place. As we say in the blessing for the miracles in Chanukah and Purim, over there we say nisim lavisenu bayomim hayom bizman hazeh. He did miracles for our parents in those days, but at this time. So the miracle elevated the time. So the Rebbe explains now what it is the miracle. And how does the miracle elevate the time? They elevate the gavul from mokim and zman to the level of above to the level of beligvul. Dalut. To explain this idea even more specifically, it's known the benisin yesh bechlolus shnei sugim. There's two categories in miracles. There is miracles that are totally out of nature, and then there is miracles that come down into nature. The benisim yesh bechlolu shnei sugim. There are two categories: nisim shalamaylo mehatavan, nisim that are beyond nature, nisim shahoyu b'mitzias mitzrayim, such as the miracles that took place in the Exodus of Egypt, in which there was hafichas mayim ledom, the turning of water to blood. That's not a natural thing at all. Until the miracle of splitting of the sea. That Yam was turned to dry land, the ocean turned to dry land. Those are fantastic. Those are miracles that are beyond nature. Then you have Nisim Hamluboshim Bedarke Hateva. You have miracles that are dressed up in the ways of nature. And then Ubahem Gufa Yeshnam Shneefanim, the way the miracles rest in nature, there's two ways. Shalavushi Hateva Heim Ba'oifun Shenikar Bahem. On the lower level, on the higher level, you can see that the garments of Teva, you can see that they're only a garment. The main thing is the miracle. You see a miracle here, but the miracle is dressed up in the nature. Kanisim the Chanukah Purim, like the miracles of Chanukah and Purim. Hanisim shel Hageula the Yutas Kislev or the Yud Beis Tammuz. Similarly, is also the miracles of the redemption of the Alter Rebbe Yutas Kislev and the Friedrich Rebbe and Yud Beis Tammuz. Although they're dressed up in the ways of nature, it was openly recognizable. You can tell. Says the Alter Rebbe writes in this letter that the all the people of the world, inhabitants, were able to see. It was a miracle that was open, notwithstanding that it was dressed up in nature. So they saw the miracles in them, in what took place in Yud Beis Tammuz, Yitis Kislev. So they were, it broke through the nature. It was recognizable that while it's nature, but still everybody can see there was a miracle. That's one level, but there's another category in which the miracles are totally blocked by nature. The second miracle is Hateva Malimim umastirim alaneis shubahem. The garments of nature obscure and they block the miracle. You can't tell it's a miracle. But to the extent sometimes sometimes they totally obscure, they totally block, so that you can't even see the cloud. There's a miracle. It's not recognized at all. It's a miracle. As we say, Ein Bal Hanes Makir Benisai. The one who has this miracle doesn't recognize that he has the miracle. Hey, it's known the Sheirish Hateva Mishem Elikim, that the root of nature comes from the name Elikim. As we know that Elikim is the same gematria, the same value as Ha-Teva. The gematria of Hateva and the gematria of Elikim are the same. That means that Teva is the same Elikim. The Beklolus, generally speaking, who are Oid HaMislam HaMemali, that is the light, the energy that fills. Shemislamish Ba'oilumais Lefi Erkom. It dresses up in the worlds according to the value of the worlds. That is the Oiram Malach, Shoyresh Anisim, and the root for miracles who Mishem Havaya. That comes from the name of Yud Kivavka. The Bechlolus, who Oir Hasevev Shalomayim Oilimus, generally speaking, that comes from the light that's Sevev, that is higher than what. So Tava comes from Elikim. And Nisim come from Shem Havaya, which is Sevev, which is higher than what. So when this is understood, those miracles that are not dressed in nature, the root of their, where are they extended from? Where do they come from? They come from the revelation of Havaya himself, which is beyond nature. Which is higher than being dressed up in the name of Elikim. But the miracles which are dressed up in nature, the nisim that are dressed up in nature, the root of their Hamshachad, where did they come from? From the revelation of Shem Havaya, Kameshu Mislabish B'Shem Elikim. That's already Havaya dressing up in the Shem Elikim, because we have the Nes dressed up in Teva, so that's Havaya dressed up in Elikim. So we understand the Sovev Kalamim is compared to Rotzen, and how Rotzen functions in the body. We'll understand how the power of the Avaya dresses up in the Likim, the Nisim dress up in Teva. Yuvan Zal Derech Moshul, understanding by way of example, by the power of the will which is in the person. The Rotzen who Moshul al Eir HaSefer. Rotzen is an example of the light that surrounds. Yesh Beis Madreges. In the Rotzen there is two levels. There is Rotzen Shalom Mitam. There is the will which is above reason. The Rotzen Shemislabish Betam. Then you have the will which dresses up in reason. So you have Seviv Kulalmim, and then you have Seviv dressing up in Memali. Gufa. And within the Rotzen that dresses up in reason, the Rotzen Hamalubash Betam, and the Rotzen that dresses up in reason, the Shnei Yefanim. There are two ways. The im hayoisoi melubash betama. One way is that even though it's dressed up in a reason, but niker boy begilui, you can see openly shabi ikrei urotzin shalamayla metam. Really, in principle, in its main, it's based on his will, which is higher than reason. But the will tilts the intellect in a way that the seichel itself becomes like the rotzin. And it's felt in him. That he. So in other words, the second way is, one way is in which you can see that is the rotzin. But the other way is that the rotzin tilts the seichel, that the seichel itself becomes like the rotzin. You don't see anymore the rotzin there. It's not apparent because it's dressed up in the rotzin. And then you feel in that, it's not because the rotzin pushes him there. That is, the seichel itself brought into it. That's where it's hidden. Similarly, it's in the Nimshul. Begilui Oyer HaSovev, in the revelation of the light of Sovev. We have similarly to these three steps of that. Shem Shoyrish Gimul Hasugim Benisim, which are the root of the three categories in miracles. There is a Neis Shalamayla Mahateva Legamri, a miracle which is totally above Teva. It's like the Rotzin, which is Lamaila Mitam, Mechlal, doesn't dress up in a tam. Nes Hamaluvish Beteva Boif Shenikar Hanes Shaboy, a Nes which is dressed in nature, which is recognizable, the miracle in it. That's the Rotzin that is recognizable, dressed up in the Seichel, but you can tell that the Seichel is doing it because the Rotzin. And then Vanessa Luish Beteva, Teva Master and Ishbay. Then you have the miracle which is dressed in Teva in a way that the Teva blocks, obscures the miracle. It's like the Seichel itself agrees to the Rotzen, and you can't tell that it's the Rotzen, but the Seichel itself becomes the Hine Vav. When we say the Neis raises, that through the miracle there becomes a raising and an elevation in nature. Mainly, it raises those miracles which are dressed in nature. Those miracles that are beyond nature, Hagilu, the Shem Havaya Shalamayla Mahateva, the revelation of the Shem Havaya, which is higher than Teva, הוא באופן שהטבע נמשך משם הליקים, בטל על ידי הגילוי. So then the teva that comes from Elikim becomes nullified. The miracle destroys basically the teva, the gilui that comes from the Maila Mehat Teva negates the teva, shidud maraches teva. It disrupts the structure of nature because the miracle takes away and robs the structure of teva. But the inyan neis meloshin harama, but when you say a miracle that it comes, that it raises, shahagilu the shem havayahu ba'ofen, that the revelation of the shem havaya is in a way, shahateva shenimshach mishem elikim, that the nature that comes from shem elikim is not broken by the shem havaya. The teva, the nest doesn't break the nature, but that it's mis'ala. What does it mean, harama? That it's raised b'ha'od the Shem Havaya. It's elevated in the light of the Shem Havaya. Hu be'ikir b'hanisim hamalu b'ashim b'teva. It's mainly in the miracles that are dressed in teva. They don't negate teva, they elevate them. Hello. Still, the fact is, they're all called nisim. Even the miracles that are not dressed in nature, they're also referred to as a nes, and they're also raised. Move on. So it's understood. Shagam al yidei nisim elu nasa harama b'aliyah b'teva. Also, through these miracles, there is an elevation, a raising in nature. The kiv on sheshidud hateva shal yidei hanes, because since the robbing of the nature or the destruction of nature that's through the miracle, it's only in one detail. It's not negating teva altogether. It's one prat, one detail of nature. Kanes de Kriyas Yamsuf, such as the miracle of Kriyas Yamsuf. Shehashinu Shidud HaTeva, where was the change? Where was the miracle? Where were the nature robbed from? Was just in this aspect that the water stood up like a wall, like a neid, avol etzem, but still there were still aspects such as the essence of the chaimer of the material that stayed. It was still water. So it turns out shagam benisim elu hagilu deshem havaya ubi slapshus b'hateva shel klolus hadover shenase b'anes. That in this way, the name, the Shem Havaya, when it dresses up, is still in nature, in the general, besides that prat. And that's the way it affects, it raises also nature, because the general nature is still there, even though in one detail it takes away. This is what it says. We don't know, should we rejoice in the day or b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu? What does it mean? The b'chol neis yesh shnei ha'inyonim. In every miracle, there is the two aspects, the yom and the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There is the day and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The aromas hateva shal yidei hanes, the raising of the nature that takes place through eninez hu yom. That is day. Canal siv beis v'gimel, as we said earlier. The yidei hanes nasa haroma v'aliyah b'hazman hayom sheboi nasa mes, sheboi nasa nes. That through the miracle that brought about an elevation, a raising in the time, in the Yom, Yom Mahem Bizman Hazeh, Shaboy Nasa erased it. That's mainly in the Yom. But Vanes Atzmai, the miracle itself, Shinyonehu L'may L'matava, which the idea of a nes is that it's higher than teva. Shoyresh hamshachosei, the root of its hamshacha, u'ma'orin sof shalamaylo me'olamais. That is rooted in Ein Sof, which is higher than the Olamis, the Tzayra Soviv. K'moi shemeir u'mizgala ba'olam. As the Eira Soviv shines and is revealed in the world, the Oifun the Soviv Makif, that it comes in the world in the way of Soviv, that it surrounds and it circles. HaKodesh Baruch, it's HaKodesh Baruch. So it's the yoim, it's the elevation in the zman, or it's the mocker of the nes, it's the Soviv Makadosh Baruch. Kabur become Mekayim, as explained in several places. The reason we call him blessed b'shem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Alatzmus Ein Sof. This refers to the essence of Ein Sof, shekodesh umuvdal me'olamais, that he is separate, holy, distinct, and he is separate from the world. K'moishe hu nimshach HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Losh Namshach HaKadosh is Baruch as he is Nimshach Ba'olamais. Be'oifen the Sefer Makif, in a way that he surrounds it and he circles it and is around it. So that's the Hamshach HaKadosh Baruch. Both the Sefer comes into Memale, into Sefer Makif, but it comes in a way that it's Sefer Makif. We don't really know what to rejoice. Whether the day or HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because in each one there is an advantage that does not apply to the other. The bedargas ha'oir, because when we talk about the level of the light, hanes atzmai, the miracle itself. So from that perspective, inyan the shitud hateva, the idea that it robs nature, hunayla harbe yoser maharovas hateva shalidei hanes, that's a higher level. It's greater. It's another more than raising the teva that takes place through the miracle. The hanes atzmei shidud hateva, because the miracle itself, the robbing of nature, taking away, rejecting nature, that is the revelation of this Seviv, which is higher than world, that takes away the level of Oilamis, that takes away Mamali, takes away Teva. But when we talk about the Teva that is raised through the Nes, so that's a lower level, because that's already the level of revelation of the Eira Seviv as it dressed up in the world. But when we talk about revelation, over there is raising nature is a higher level. The Bahanes Atzmai Hagilu the Eira HaSeviv, because in the miracle itself, the Nes, which is when Eira Seviv Ein Lo Adam HaSokah said, the person can't grasp it, is beyond the person's grasp. Shalachem Nikroim Handisim B'Shem Neflois, they're called wonders because they're beyond. The Pella Hu She'eina Musim B'Seichel. Pella means it's not graspable in the intellect. Not only can you not, but you are taken aback when you see something surprising. When a person sees something wondrous, he gets shocked by this. The Ishtoimus is the level of bittul. So it's not grasping the seichel, and it actually subjugates. Is explained in many places that that when the four that need to give thanks for the miracles that took place to them, the four people, the hayom and the Yitzbesasurim, as enumerated from the Pasuk in Tilim and Halacha, that why they have to thank Hashem, that the so this thanking for the miracle is the idea of bittul, because the miracle accomplishes by the person what it accomplishes in the world, that the world should be bottom. The Kemoisha Ba'ilam, just like in the world, Inyan Hanes, the idea of the Nesis. Shateva misbattle, that nature is negated. The Kivon Shanes Bomea Gilu da Atsu Series of Shalamaylam Oilus. Since the miracle comes from the revelation of the essence of which is higher than the world, which the world cannot accept. That way it becomes the subjugation of nature of the world. Similarly, the way it accomplishes the world in it does to the person too. Through the miracle, it comes to thanking and subjugation. So the person, as far as Gilui comes, the person is not capable of receiving a nace, it actually is Mavatla. So that's lower by the person than the nace that raises teva, in which he can grasp, as opposed to the idea of raising nature. The revelation, the name of Havaya, which is higher than Teva, Nislabish Bateva Gufa, has been dressed up in Teva itself. Al Zeksiv, but this it says, that you can know, you can appreciate that Havaya, which is higher than nature, is Elikim, Yediyah V'Hasoga. That's the knowledge and grasping. Since joy is when you understand this dafkin level of bina, aim habonim smeicha, the level of bina is simcha masheenkin b'chochma shalamayla masoga, as opposed to chochma, which is higher than grasping, and shaykh simcha doesn't apply simcha. So afshakam chochma is also sechel elo. Shinikudas klol is venibis yashus. It's a general point. It's not settled in. The Zem move on Kolshkein Benegeya Lepela Shalamayla Masechels. Of course, when you talk about the wonder, the miracle which is higher than Seichel, it's not something that settles in. Lochein, but because there is an advantage in the Haramas that the day is raised, Yeshkos Al Kadaitoch, the Smayach B'yoy. That's why there is a thought, maybe we should be rejoicing with the day, because as far as revelation, the day is elevated through the revelation. That's greater. We can add the Yoim who Oir Vigilui, that Yoim itself, Hayom, as I said before, Yoim is light and Gilui. Kibavur Barucha Mamer the Balha Gula with Chilos is explained at length in the Mamer of the Bala Gula in the beginning. This means to rejoice in the day. The hatam ala kosel kadaitoch l'smayach b'hayoyim shenase b'nes. The reason why there's a thought that we should rejoice in the day in which the miracle took place. What is the idea of raising nature? Ki inyan zeh hu yoyim. Because that is what is day. Day is oir v'gilui, because that is yoim zeh hayoim, the day, because that you can grasp that it becomes a light and revelation. But it comes down in knowledge and grasping. But Shlomo came and explained, no, that we need to rejoice by Kodesh Baruch Hu b'chol b'yirasachul. The Pirush Baruch Bakodesh Baruch Hu Shepirish Shlomo. What does it mean, Baruch Bakodesh Baruch Hu, that Shlomo explained? Bakodesh Baruch Hu Asma Shalamayla Gam Mesever. It's actually Bakodesh Baruch Hu himself, which is even higher than Sefer. Ukimvur Bakam Mekaymes, as explained in many places, the Pirush Baruch, the meaning of the Baruch Baruch Batzmusach is in the essence. What is the novelty of Shlomo Chachma Kol Adam? Who the shoyresh anisim hu ma'atzmos, that the root of nisim comes from atzmos. The fact that there is a relation of Shem Havaya which is higher than Teva, and it can dress up in the name of Elikim in Teva, the Inyan's Gam b'hanisim shalamayla mahatava. That is also applies to the miracles which is above nature. Kinal Sivav, I said earlier that to a certain extent, nature itself, only one aspect of nature changes, but all of nature remains the same. So you have the Shem Havaya that is higher than nature, extending in Elikim in Teva in nature. And even after it's dressed up in nature, Nikar Bigilui Gam Bahanisim Ham Luboshim Beteva. And then you can see after the dress up in Teva, you can still see openly, even in the miracles that are dressed in Teva Kadis Nuchanak Yopurim. Shehu Neis, that it is really a miracle, like Gilu D'Shem Havaya Shel Ma'ilem HaTeva, that it's the miracle Shem Havaya Teva. How could you have this combination that it's Teva and you can still see that it's Nes? That comes because of the power of Atzmus that connects and unites two opposites, that Teva and L'mayla Teva, that Sevim and Memale, could both be together. This is the connection, the tie, and the two interpretation of Gila Nisbach Bach. Bach Bakodesh Baruch Hu Kipirush HaMedrash. Bach Bakodesh like the Medrash says, Ubach Ba'atzmusoch. That's in the Atzmus. Ki hachibur v'hayichud the Kodesh Baruch Seva V'Mamale, because the connection of the Yichud of Kodesh Baruch Seva V'Mamale that comes with the power of Atzmus. Ikivon shaposik nogilo v'nismechavo muva b'medrash be'emshach l'tei shtei asvoris. Since the posik nogilo v'nismechavo comes in the medrash as a follow-up to the two ideas, b'inyan hasimcha b'nisim and the simcha b'nisim, whether it's b'yoim or it's b'kodesh baruch hu, im l'ismeich b'kodesh baruch hu b'neis atzmish nimshach be'erasevim. Shall we rejoice in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is the Zenei Sas that comes from the Rasev, Oilismayach Ba'ayoim, Mi Slapshus HaSev Memale, that would be from Sev dressing up in Memale. Shal Yidei Zem Mislabish Hanes B'Teva, that's how the miracle messed up in Teva. V'chidush de Shleimahu, and what is Chidush in Shleimah that he explained, Boch Batz Musach, it needs to be an atzmus who ties both of these matters. That's what he said. Boch ba'kodesh baruch hu. That's what he says. Boch ba'kodesh baruch hu, and not boch ba'atzmusach, because we don't want to know. We want it to be connected, both kodesh baruch hu. The power of the Atzmus that is revealed in the Nisim was the Kodesh Baruch consists in the fact that it unites these two levels of Kodesh Baruch. So it's not the Atzmus, but it's the Kodesh Baruch. Tes Mamshe Medrash continues Boch Biroscha Boch B'Teroscha Boch B'Yishuasa. The Amshachas Ha'atzmus he, how do we draw down the Atzmus Al-Dei HaYira? That comes through B'Yiroscha. Explained in many places different between Av and Yira. The Idei Ha'ava Kivan Shehi Mitzias V'Yispashtus. Love is an entity, it's an expansion. Magiyim Ba'Giluyim Do'edin Sof Yispashtus. Then you reach the revelation of the Ein Sof. You read the level of his pashtus. And specifically through the level of Yira, which is bittul, Till the extent of the subjugation from the essence of the soul. Magim ba'atzmus, that's the way you reach atzmus. Avol zeh shalidei hayira magim ba'atzmus hu behelam. But this, that through yira you reach atzmus, is hidden. Ubichtei sheyiyeh gilu atzmus. We need weiter, we need bitoros, hoidei Torah. The bittul gets you atzmus, but it's not the gilu. Should we gilu atzmus, we need Torah, Torah. Tagam shebittul the yiru mitzad etzem haneshama, even though that the bittul of yira comes because of the essence of the neshama, the shoyrish haneshama, ulamayl b'shoyrish haTorah, the source of the neshama is higher than the level of Torah, the haragilu, the whole inyan. But everything, even gam the shoyrish haneshama is k'mav Moshe mishroshim ba'atzmus, even the root of the souls as they are rooted in the Atzmos while they are Torah. So you need Torah. So after B'cha B'Roscha, you need B'cha also B'Torah Secha, because Torah Secha brings the Gilui of the Inyonim that is accomplished through Yira. V'yesh L'Hoisif. And we can add. So notwithstanding the fact that it's Vittel of Vesel Shama, but still, in order to become Begilu, it has to go through the level of Torah. Torah. Yesh lahisim, we can add the Mekivan, she is takil be'raisu bara'oma. Since Hashem looked into the Torah, and that's He creates the world. Kol ha'am shochel sheba'ilam heim alidei ha'Torah. All extended things that come in the world come through Torah. Ushnei ho'inyonim, and both aspects, the lamayla ma'ateva blikvul, above nature, which is blikvul, the tava and nature gvul shabaylam, nimshachim mishnei ha'inyonim the gvul, the blikvul gvul shabaytorah. They come from the two aspects of unlimited and limited, which is Torah itself. And as explained in many places in the verse, He wraps the light like a garment. Shegalgi the Torah, the revealed part of Torah. Hashlema the Torah. That's the Silma. That's the Psalm of the Torah. Oiter Kasalma. That's the garment of Torah. He b'medida v'hagbola. That's measured and limited. Upanimius HaTorah, the inner of Torah, the Torah. That's the light of Torah. Obligable. When you have the unity of these two aspects of Torah, Shagali v'apnimius said Torah v'achas, that revealed and the inner of Torah is one Torah. Ubefrat al yidei isaka Torah ba'ifin, especially when you learn Torah in a way. Shabalimu that nigla nigrish atzloi v'gilu hapnimis the Torah. When he's learning the revealed part of Torah, it's felt by him openly. The inner part of Torah and the flourish of Torah. Al yidei zeh nimshach ba'olam. That way, it extends in the world of Chivud, the Maila Mateva Imateva, the connection of above nature with nature, will be oifen, Shagam Bahateva Yenira Gash Bigilu Hanifloy Shal Maila Mateva, so that also in nature we should feel openly the Nifloyes, which is higher than Teva. The three levels. First, it's birasecha through we can draw down atzmas. The light of Torah, nase gilu atzmas. Nimshach li is b'cha b'yeshua secha. Tagam shahoy b'matzav shehuske kuli Yeshua. Even though we're in a situation, neither the Yeshua, v'gam la'achar, even later on, since we are still in goals, Yeshua, the salvation is in garments of nature. And yet, you can see openly that everybody who's on the earth sees that this is an open miracle which is higher than Tava. And he continues the Medrash, Omar Rabbi Yitzchak, Yitzchak says, the 22 letters that you wrote in the Torah. The fact that through Torah we get this salvation in the above way, it's mainly in the letters of the Torah. The two ideas. That connecting above nature with nature comes from the power of Asmus Canal. And the letters of Torah are the vehicles, the vessels to bring down the Atzmus Kimavur by Mamer the Balagula. V'hachayis, so kol ve'echad ve'echad ve'Yisrael, and the vitality of each and every one who are yesh lo is b'Torah. That's through having the letter of Torah gives them the vitality of the L'chein. B'gdei she'yir nagila v'nismach ha'boch, that in order to be nagila v'nismach ha'boch, the Ian Asimcha, the Nismcha Boch, the Asr, the Ian Asimcha, Gilu HaChayis, at the Gilu Pnimis HaChayis, the Simcha is revealing the vitality until the inner Chayis. While Yidei Eisis HaTorah, that's through the letters of Torah. Shemehem Nimshach Chayis L'Kolechad Yisrael, from them extends Chayis to each one of the Yidden. Ois Yud. Hine Yedua, it's known as Simcha Peretz is Geder. That Simcha breaks through boundaries. Umuvan is understood. Sha'gedorim shemifrotzim halidei hasimcha. That the boundaries that are breached, broken through Simcha imrak hagedorim shel oisa habechina shebo hasimcha. That's only those boundaries in the level in which is the Simcha. And therefore, Kasher hasimcha b'hanisimim mitzad hagiluim demamala v'soivev, when the simcha is in the miracles which are from the revealed levels of memali and soivev yom b'kadosh baruch hu, shehem begeder yidiyah, they are in the definition of Ein anu yodim, we don't know. Nishorim hadayim, so they're still in yodah. We don't know this or that, so it's still within knowing. Nishorim hagadorim adayin hagadorim sheyeshnam b'amchinas shalamayla meidiyah. But those boundaries, therefore, remain those that are higher than yidiyah. Asher enken al yidei hasimcha dinagila v'nismacha boch b'atzmusach. What we talk about, the simcha of nagila v'nismacha and atzmus, Nasa Pirates, that becomes the breach, Pritzes Kol HaGedorim, breaches all boundaries. And through that is added even more. Bachibur de Lamailam Hateva Iman Hateva, in the connecting piece that connects, the power that connects above nature with nature, Shenasa Alidei Gilu Atzmus, which becomes through the revelation of Atzmus. And this is what the pasuk said. This is the day that Hashem has made, so we should rejoice by the day hasimcha b'zeh hayom, through the rejoicing in zeh hayom ba'ofen the nagila v'nismecha bach, in a way that it is nagila v'nismecha bach, as articulated by Shlomo. In Atzmus, mitosav yeser b'hageula, that adds even more further in the geula. She be'ofen naila mikoid yeser mikmoisha hoysa b'pamar rishoyna, that it's even in a higher level that it was before. And the first time, kifishin imshecha milamayla lifnei hasimcha, as it extended from above before the simcha. Bekivon shebahageula the yud beis Tamuz nigalu kol echad v'echad miYisrael. Since in the redemption of beis Tamuz, each and every one of the Jewish people was redeemed. Gam elu asher b'shem Yisrael rak yichuna, only even those that are only called, we only call them a yid, they're nicknamed Yisrael. L'chein kam ha'isofa b'hageula b'chol shana. Also, the addition and the redemption every year, Shenasa as Aidei Simchas Hageula, which takes place through the rejoicing of the redemption, in Imshechas the Kol Echad V'Echad Mi Yisrael, that extend to each and every one of the Jewish people, to free himself from all matters that prevent and hold back to the mitzvahs. Based on what is known, that all redemptions have a connection one to another, because they're all called redemption. Yesh leimar. We can say that through our rejoicing in the festival celebration of the redemption, there will be also a addition in the future redemption. Sham nismecha boy, over there will rejoice in him. Boy ba'atzmusay, bebias Mashiach tzikenu bekorev mamish.